Hi, I'm Steve. You. Welcome to Digivice. Today we're meeting with Veronica, who is a launch copywriter. And hi, Veronica.
Hey Steve, how you going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, really well. I'm feeling good.
Good. We're basically going to be talking about what you're currently doing and how you're helping people to keep promoting as well as keeping their content flowing, that sort of thing. How are you doing that?
Yeah, well, I've had a few people come to me, a few of my regular clients who have sort of reached out to me since the beginning of COVID and have sort of said, how am I going to keep going, Veronica? Like, I don't actually feel as though I can promote my business right now while there's so many others in financial stress. And the biggest thing I've had to remind them of is the fact that they do need to keep promoting. Like they must keep sharing their offers with people if they're going to be able to help the people who need them the most. I think there's probably a period that we're in at the moment, which is perhaps obviously the shock of many people who are pivoting and transitioning from offline to online. There's still a bit of like grief around losing, parts of their business and all of, even though it was progressive, it has also been very sudden in the scheme of a year or a scheme of a life. So, there's a lot of sort of wounds that need to be mended, but it definitely doesn't mean that you should stop promoting and doing your thing.
Yeah. I mean, life doesn't stop either. We're sort of in this stasis almost at the moment, but we're not really. I mean, we've got to keep on going with business. Otherwise, everything just grinds to a halt. And then what do we unfreeze everything once all of this is over? How do we even do that? It's much easier if we just keep on going.
Yeah, that's right. And keep the momentum going with your audience that you currently have. So even if you are planning on transitioning or pivoting the direction of your business or changing your niche or changing your offers to suit the new climate, it's really important that you maintain that connection with your current audience through all of this so that they can either choose to come with you in your new direction or not. But having to start again from scratch in terms of building your audience for your offers, when you nurture your audience to a point and then you eventually make offers to them, which you think will help them, it's much more difficult to start from scratch than it is to maintain relationships with your current audience and then, entice or encourage them to pivot with you as you go along your new adventure in your business.
And that's what content and social media has always been about, though, hasn't it? Building that relationship and keeping that contact going.
That's it. Yeah. So through the content, that's people's entry point into your business and entry point into getting to know you and the way you operate and your processes, and through your content and your idea sharing, that's how people, you build that relationship with your clients and that trust is developed between you so that when it comes time for them to actually solve the problem that you help with, then they'll have you at the front of their mind to reach out to. So that's the benefit of continuing your content even through these troubled times. In fact, it actually is a perfect time for people to be, because of the stillness that's around us in society, it's the perfect time for people to absorb your ideas, and they're actually taking and listening a lot more than usual, and they're wanting to hear from you, and they're wanting to seek out direction and clarity from what they see as their authority sources. And if you're in business, then you are automatically somebody's authority source. So it's a really great privilege and it's a great position to be in. It's also a great responsibility that you have to help your audience through the content that you put out there as well.
Yeah. And I feel that sometimes people think that if you're promoting your business, you're trying to sell something, but it's not really about that. Most of modern day business is more about helping and trying to solve that problem. So rather than promoting your business as a, hey, buy my stuff. It's more based around, hey, this solution might help with your current problem. It's not really about blowing your own horn. It's about saying, hey, I'm trying to keep on doing what we've always been doing. It's a different environment that we're in.
Yeah, that's it. I think sort of education-based marketing has been popular for a while now, where obviously sales are made through the conversations that you start with clients and the education that they receive through listening and or watching a video or listening to an audio recording or reading a blog article. I think that style of marketing has been around for a long time, and it's definitely sort of what I see is going to be really important moving forward, as well as keeping that education style marketing intact, because that approach is going to be more important than ever as people make their own pivots and changes in their businesses and their lives. They're going to be reaching out for not just quick fix solutions, but they want to know also, the reasoning behind what they're buying, or a lot more DIY products and things like that, because people have the time and the space to do things. I sort of imagine people will be looking for those options instead of just quickly making snap decisions with their buying. They're going to want the education component as well, which is great, because that's sort of the way marketing, and certainly online marketing, has been going for a while now.
So how can people get started with that educational-based marketing?
Well, I think right now the most important thing is to not stop. So keep that momentum going, like you mentioned before. Keep the balls in motion. But I do think there's an important step in there is to actually take some time to reflect on your marketing. The copy that you currently use on your website, the copy that you currently use in your about page, on your social media platforms. Have a look at what's currently, what used to work, because 9 times out of 10, what has been working for you will no longer work in this current climate. And there's a number of reasons for that, is because the pain points of your clients have shifted, and their needs and wants have changed, and their priorities are very, very different at this time. So if you don't have copy that mirrors what their needs are, or mirrors what their goals or their intentions are, then you'll find it hard to resonate. You'll really have a hard time connecting with people and persuading them to buy what they need at this time, what that is going to be good for them to have at this time. So to get started, what I would suggest is basically putting a pause on your marketing, but not entirely. I should say keep going, keep the momentum going, but also give your time out to reflect before pushing forward. Yeah, reassess. Give yourself, that's a great word. Reassess what's going on and what needs to change for the future. But at the same time, keep some content rolling as well. And I'll give you some ideas of some content that you can use as you're doing that reflection process, because it may take you a day, it may take you a week to reassess what's going on with your marketing. But it's just important that you maintain that connection, so that doesn't drop altogether while you're, in this zone of trying to figure out what the heck you're doing. So I would recommend having a think about these three aspects that you need to reassess in your business. And they are what your, there are 3 V's. That's how you might remember them. So the first thing you might ask yourself is, what is your vision? So what is your vision for yourself as a business, as a company? And then think on the flip side of that, what is my client's vision, and has that changed? How has that changed is a question you'll probably have to ask yourself. They may have had one thing that was really important to them, but then since this is all happening, they've, other priorities have now taken place. Maybe holidays were really important for them as a family. That's off the cards. So now, a more urgent need for this particular client might be to be able to keep the doors of his business open, so it's a very dramatic shift in some cases. So think about your own vision and the vision of your clients. Do some reflection around that. The second V that you might want to consider is values. And that's like, what do you value? What are your values as a business, and what do you value? And asking yourself that question in light of what's going on in the world. And also that same question for your audience, like what do your clients now value? What's more important to them than ever? And you might find it's very, very different. And what you might realize through doing this activity is that the offer that you provide might not match what they value or what they actually, have a vision for anymore. Their vision may have evolved or changed so much that your offer no longer suits that in the current situation. So that's where you'll start to see the gaps or the disconnects through doing these reflection questions. What do I value? What is my vision? What do my clients value? What is my client's vision? And the third V that's important to think about is the voice. So the voice that you share, obviously through your content, you are the voice of leadership, and you are a voice of encouragement, and have that ability to elevate people at this time. So the words that you choose to use on your sales page or in a social post or on your website are going to be extra important at this time. Reflecting or mirroring the language of your clients is always the best thing. But to do that, you're going to need to do a bit of research, because so much has changed. It's not as easy to predict how people are feeling, how your client avatar might be feeling about something. So you're going to have to ask the questions and listen carefully to the clues that are coming in the language they're using, and then reflect that language back to them. So, for example, if somebody said, if you used a conversation starter prompt like, when it comes to running your business, what are you most worried about at the moment? If you use that as a conversation starter, then you'll see a whole range of opinions and ideas coming in, some fears coming up. And you can use that fear, or you can use that pain point in your copy to help them realize that you can actually help them solve that pain. So maybe somebody might say, I'm worried I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. And in your copy, what you would say is, you'd turn that around and use a pronoun you, and you'd say, you want to be able to protect your family during this time. Okay, so you're actually throwing the ball back in their court. What the client has said is, I'm worried I'm not going to be able to protect my family. And what you're saying is, you want to protect your family at this time. You need what I've got to offer. So you're using the pronoun you to make it more relatable and resonate with the audience. It might be, if you're a fitness coach, or I have a good example of one of my clients who's a yoga teacher, and he actually is a little bit intuitive, because he has been setting up his yoga studio, which is an online, it's Yoga Anywhere, it's an online live studio, and people actually book in for live lessons in their living room. And he sort of had this in progress for a long time, and now other places will sort of follow suit in this. But when we're looking at his copy, some of the ideas that he had were along the lines of, you want to escape the rat race, you need yoga in your life to escape the rat race, or you need yoga to calm down after a busy 9-to-5 day. And now for this period of time, none of those things are relevant. So, we're not really escaping the rat race at the moment. We're not really stressed about working 9-to-5. There's different and new stresses and new problems that have arisen that need to be reflected in the copy. So, yeah.
We're rats in a cage, as Smashing Pumpkins once put it.
That's right.
Yoga instructors I've found have actually jumped on board with this idea of online. I know a couple of other yoga instructors that have just gone and transitioned almost immediately. It's amazing that they've got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll continue to see that. Some people seem to be very flexible, and that they resilient, and they just have transitioned really seamlessly. But for others, I suppose there's more of depending on the type of business, there's been more of the setup and the management of staff, and all sorts of things to think about.
Of course.
Yeah. But I think if you can maintain that, like, while reflecting on your content, maintaining that connection and that contact with your current audience is really super important. So a couple of tips on types of posts that you might be able to put out while you're doing this reflection behind the scenes, because I realize this won't happen in half a day. You need time to think about those 3 Vs. and also to do the research. You need time to research on what your clients are sharing with you. But to give you a helping hand, posts like, what are your biggest fears when it comes to this? Or what's one goal you have for your business this month? You know, those sorts of things. You might want to, you can sometimes attract responses that are quite negative, like, I don't have a business. Why are you asking? You know, so those sorts of things. But I think you have to take the good with the bad, and you have to still be brave enough to share those prompts and those conversation starters, even if it does start a difficult conversation, because it's in those difficult conversations that you'll be able to learn the most about what your clients need from you and be able to pivot your offer to you know, to align with what they need and to serve them better. So asking them questions like, what are your fears? What are your goals? What's one win that you've had recently? All of those sort of short conversation starter posts. You could be posting those now while your reflection is happening in the background, and that'll help you to develop some new content, new language that you can start to use in your copy as well.
You can sort of help gauge the audience as well. I mean, that's the whole point, right? That's why we're sending these messages out, to try and gauge how they're feeling and create content that's going to help them not so much alleviate their worries, because I don't think that we're really trained to do that, but to at least offer solutions in a way that we're capable of doing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it definitely gives you a great way of assessing how they're feeling and where in their journey that you might be of most assistance. You know, there is no point in making an offer for something if they're still worried about, if their highest priority right now is the health of their child or the health of their parent, then it's very unlikely that they're going to want to invest in something that's a brand new business opportunity if that's not even on their radar. So you can get a general sense of how they're feeling through using those conversation starter prompts. And then obviously tailor your content and tailor your offers to suit that. Pivoting your positioning. The other thing is a bit of a mindset shift, I suppose, is just instead of scratching your business and starting again, just consider it pivoting your positioning or realigning your messaging. So it doesn't feel as overwhelming if you're just pivoting or you're just realigning. And I had one of my friends who's a counsellor as well. She had this great analogy for clarity, and she said something that clarity always requires there to be to focus, like a camera lens. It's like it has to be focused and then refocused. So it's not as though you ever just focus the lens and go, okay, great, I can see clearly now forever. There'll always be a new subject that you see and, you know, a new image that you want to be involved in, but you have to constantly tweak your camera lens so that you have that clarity. And I think, just even
I like that.
Convincing your mind that you're not starting over, you're just pivoting. You're not scrapping all your hard work from all your years of business. You're just realigning your marketing or your messaging with your current audience or your current needs. You know, for example, if you might have done like your whole lead generation technique might have been live events, and that's how you generate your leads. So you really have to be creative with how you're going to start to generate leads, if it is still a viable solution that people still need at this time, sort of thing, what you're offering. Also, where you position your... What was that?
Just get a long stick and make sure that they don't go, no, we're all staying at home.
That's right. You can have a stick and measure people. That's right. But you might go online, obviously, and you might do smaller events or smaller when we're allowed to again. Just a different way of doing things. You might not have even thought of it yet. And that's the exciting part, is that there's going to be so many new jobs and new ideas that come from this that we haven't even imagined yet, sort of thing. So I think there's hope in that. I think where you position your offers within your niche and even within society will be changing. Like, for example, if you've always only ever sold high ticket offers and they're at a certain price point and you don't ever waver on that, that's completely fine. And it's great to keep your prices intact during this time, so you're not discounting or putting a sale on in terms of trying to attract people quickly, because that's not sustainable. But I think it's important that you still have offers that do serve people at the level that they're at and meet them where they are. So instead of putting your highest offer on special or giving them a special COVID code or something that you want them to use, you might consider introducing a lower ticket entry point offer, which is especially for this time or especially for these people or a certain number of people or a certain part of society that you want to gift that to, sort of thing. And that's a different way of looking at it, rather than just positioning your offers differently within your own business and within your market, so that people still can enjoy your services and you can still get people through your door as well.
Cool.
Yeah,
you never want to be discounting your services, because you really do discount the service that you're providing. You want to make a different offer. I think that's always been relevant. It's just not something that people have implemented.
Yeah, I think that as well. I feel like, you're better off. One of my mentors used to describe it as, you never give people mates rates. Like, you don't go and give them, if I went out to dinner with you, I wouldn't say, okay, you and your family can have 20% off your meal tonight. I either shout you all or I don't shout you, or I don't, it's yes or no. So at this time, you can give an offer away. If you have something that you think, I'm just going to help this person, I'm going to, you're not doing yourself or your business a disservice by giving something entirely away. But I think where you might be run into trouble down the track is if you automatically discount all your things now out of fear or scarcity that you're not going to get enough business. And then what happens then is people's perception of the value of your service then changes as well. And so if you've spent years developing your skills and your expertise and, adding value to your offers, and now in a clean sweep, you're prepared to let all that go just out of the fear of not having enough. I think that's where you might run into problems sustaining that in terms of, work output and burnout and things like that. So, it's important to keep your offers intact if they're still viable, if they're still, if people still need them, and keep your price points intact, but consider creating something new and something different for people, or value adding. So you could have your same offer, but for this period of time, because of COVID, I'm actually going to add this bonus. You're all going to receive this as well. And that sort of adding to rather than taking away is key, I think.
Yeah.
True. And so much of that, I suppose the copy on your page is all about persuading the client that they need what you have to offer. Traditionally that's what copy does, is its purpose is to persuade, and obviously packaging what it is they need as what they want, kind of thing. So one of my clients is a psychic medium. She's based in Ireland, and we were talking about how she doesn't usually do card readings. She doesn't do cards. She doesn't sort of need to. She does soul readings. So she just interprets the person's needs and what they have based on what messages she receives from the angels. And I said to her, maybe at this time, what might be useful for you is actually using the cards, because what people think they may need at the moment is, I need clarity. I need to know what's going to happen in my future. Am I going to be okay? They want certainty, and they want confidence, and they want clarity, and they want those things, and they think that they're going to get those from the card reading. What this client of mine knows is they actually will get this from the soul reading. So her service is what they need, but she might need to use the cards to alleviate their fears and their worries. And then once she sort of has developed that relationship with them, then she can show them what it is they actually need to sustain that sense of calm or that sense of confidence. Because just a quick once-off card reading is not going to be necessarily for everyone a solution that's sustainable. Whereas working with her is something that they can build that relationship, and over a number of sessions that they may find the answer they're looking for. So it's a little bit like this analogy of a little kid who falls over and hurts his ankle, like snaps his ankle. That sounds hard, doesn't it? The little boy falls over, breaks his ankle, sprains his ankle, and comes to his mummy crying and says, "Oh, I want a Band-Aid, Mum. I really need a Band-Aid." And that's what the kid wants. The kid wants the Band-Aid. But in actual fact, the kid needs an ice pack. So what he thinks he wants is the Band-Aid, and what he actually needs is an ice pack. So part of copywriting is sort of meeting them where they're at and saying, explaining to them you know that you've used Band-Aids before and they don't always work unless there's blood. Maybe this time we use an ice pack, and but sort of give them what they want, but package it as what they need.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Those rules of copywriting haven't changed, but I suppose there's another level of sensitivity that's required, and it's only, you're not going to know for sure if people are ready to hear about your offer. You're not going to know, but you have to, it's the same at any point in time. Is it ever too soon to make an offer to someone to invest in your services or work with you, or benefit from, the service work that you do? I think you never really know. So there's no harm in asking, sort of thing. It's no harm in using that education marketing and saying, would you like me to help with this? Or did you know I offer this service? If you need it, it's there. That sort of thing. Yeah. There's probably just I did have a couple of things that I wanted to share about things to avoid.
Yeah.
Did you want me to share those?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I just had 3 things. So it's avoid sensationalizing COVID. So even in terms of like the font that you use, and like I know media sensationalizes it somewhat, like they'll say on the front line, and they'll say, I remember one ad was like, your family, your finances, your freedom, will it survive? So they really sensationalized the whole, made it very movie-like. So I think while it's important to recognize their fears, and what they might be curious and contemplating at the moment, it's also important not to only focus on that point. So in your content, keep your content varied. So you wouldn't every day go, what are you worried about today? Okay, great, I've got some more for my research. Okay, what are you scared of today? Okay, great. What are you fearful of? Like that would just be monotonous and, sensationalizing it, and really, it's not it's not conducive to anything positive. So I think just having a sensible approach, not a sensationalizing approach, is really important. And I think also it's important to avoid trivializing it, and it's sort of trivializing something is different to sensationalizing it. Sensationalizing it is making it out to be bigger or different or scary, or making it to be something that it may not be. And trivializing it is sort of downplaying it a little bit, like, oh, it's just a cold and let's make a joke about this.
When business as usual. Yeah.
Say again?
Business as usual.
Yeah. It sort of feels a bit dismissive, and it makes it seem as though, there are people in your audience who have COVID. There are people in your audience who have family members who are going to die from COVID. So it's a very serious thing. So downplaying it is probably one of the worst things you could do, but also sensationalizing it and making it full of fear is also, probably not the best approach. Somewhere between the two, like somewhere, just a sensible approach to being sensitive with listening more than you talk, basically, this time is important, which is hard for marketers to listen rather than talk. But keeping in mind the research is important. And starting with those conversation prompts, those really simple conversation starters, is the best way to get some answers first. And then the third thing that you should avoid is to avoid marketing. So avoiding marketing, because if you avoid marketing, then people in 3 months will say, whatever happened to that lady? Whatever happened to that business? They'll wonder where on earth you've gone, even though it might be internally inside your house, a completely chaotic scene, or internally inside yourself, it might be chaos. It is important that if you are choosing to keep your business in operation, that you remain visible, like you commit to that, and then you are visible in your business as per usual, I suppose, in that respect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that last part's really important as well, not just because I'm a marketer, but also because there are unfortunately going to be some businesses that won't survive this. So it's one way of telling your customers and your clients that, you are still operating. You are still able to access that. They're still able to access your services. I think that's
absolutely
important to keep them involved. And if you do need to close your doors, I think that it's also important to let them know, like let your customers and clients know about that as well, because who knows, maybe they'll say, hey, you know what, we need this service. Let's all get together and help out.
Yeah,
with that
yeah.
specific service or
That's
something like
so
that.
true. Yeah. And the people power at the moment is beautiful. Like one of my clients who's a personal trainer, slash she owns her own whole foods, real foods, organic foods catering company. She's based at the Gold Coast, and she has just had a client of hers call in and say, look, I want to pay for 3 months of food for one person. So whoever you've got in your community who needs 3 months of like this beautiful, fresh, handmade food delivered to her, that whoever's going to get it, you know? So isn't that lovely that,
Yeah.
you know, keeping in contact with your clients, there could be different opportunities that come from that they're sitting on and don't realize you need help as a business owner until you keep those communication lines open. So best way you can do that is through content. Yeah.
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 Awesome.
Cool.
Well, thanks, Veronica.
No worries. No trouble at all.